What's up? I've awoken from my slumber yet again and have decided to put out a Counter-Strike video about supporting your teammates. And this will apply to CS2, so even better. This is going to be about supporting your teammates on the bomb site as their site's getting hit. Because more often than not, you're going to rotate into a site. Let's just say, for example, B is getting taken over. You're going from A and you're like, oh, I gotta help you. That's all I got. You know, you do this and you're just like, I tried. But it was like, nah, you could have helped your teammate. So, we're going to go over some flashes and mollies, because those two are probably the nades you're going to have the most commonly as you're retaking. We're going to go over flashes and mollies that you can use to help your teammates stay alive and delay the hit so that you can actually get in there and help. Now, starting with Inferno B, the best bomb site on the map, or in the game. Yes, in the game. Don't judge me. Basically, you want to throw a flash that lands on the roof above the new box right there. I don't have a lineup, you kind of just chuck it, running jump throw. Something like that is perfectly fine, because as the T's are coming in, let's say they're like all the way over here already, they just eat it and they don't have a chance to react. You know, let's say they're trying to like really, like imagine they're really close, right around here maybe, and then they're just full blind. Now you can try to be a little cheeky and try to get it to land right in front of your box, for example, so that your teammate here can wait for it to pop and then swing out and get the kill. Because, again, this guy that's pushing new box, boom, just like blind the instant he's right here. I mean, it's still a 50-50 fight if the guy just sprays like this, prays, but you know, it's pretty good, pretty good. Now for A, this is a little finicky, but I think it's still worth knowing. If you stand in the middle of the door here, aim between the top of the pipe and the wire, and jump throw on 128, it's going to land there, which catches a lot of the common backside spots. Now the spread into this corner here is inconsistent, and the spread here is a little inconsistent, so just like keep that in mind if you're going to try to learn this. But if you aim a little lower, you can probably get it to hit mid-sight, and maybe you need a little shimmy. I'm playing some Street Fighter lately, that's for fun. But give it a little forward walking jump throw, and you get that. And you can probably finagle a lineup to get the default. You know, I'm just gonna do something random like that. Not quite, but you get the idea, right? You can use that as a reference to try to get a molly off for a different part of the map, or a different part of the site. You know, that could hit default, for example. I just made that up in like 5 seconds. So, moving on to Mirage, something that applies to both bomb sites on the CT side. If you're rotating from one to the other, there are ways to just throw flashes over the buildings to throw flashes to support your team. That wasn't convoluted at all. You know, something like this is like, even that like split-second flash is usually pretty decent. If they're like a little closer on site, maybe they're not so blind, but people scaling, you know, people trying to take fights around here, they should be blind. At least for a little bit. And of course, on the A side of things, you can kind of do some random stuff like that. Or if you want to be a little deeper, you just stop for a second and throw like this. And then people coming in, they'll be blind for a split second, but that split second might be enough to have your teammate get one more, or get that slightly more advantageous fight. Something I've shown off very often is this molly right here, standing in that corner there. Just aiming at the intersection of this line here and the wall, or the corner, I guess. Because that's going to spread into firebox and spread into default, which lets you spam the left side right here and get you a kill. Again, you got to remember that this is smoke. So, there. Spam that. Very often you'll get a kill. Now, coming into overpass, a really cool flash you can do is to throw it like over this empty space here. And what that's gonna do is probably not blind your teammates. I mean, maybe if they're like over here. But it's also gonna blind people that are coming out monster. A lot more than your teammates that are like over there. So Super useful. Again, you might blind your teammates, but the enemy is going to be a lot more. Oops. The T's are going to be a lot more blind, and that's kind of more important. Now, on the flip side, if you can get into the position fast enough, you can just throw flashes over like that. And that's going to actually just like catch people in mid, in sands, trying to rotate up or take the site. You know, just really simple. Just like come over here and just chuck it up. And that's going to blind people right here. Of course, your teammates who are on site, they might get blind too. That's okay. Who cares? Now coming to Anubis, it's a little harder on this map to throw support util, but I'll give you what I can. If you're rotating from mid to A, you can try to chuck stuff over this broken pillar right here. And you are safe from any peeks that might happen. Wow, I can't throw grenades apparently. So you can try something like that, a molly there, or even a flash, you know, just chucking something over really high like that to try to blind people that are coming in right here. If you throw it right, your teammate won't be blind, so they could probably just hold the angle like this. That's just one idea for you there. You can try to throw flashes from A to B, from camera to B. Admittedly, they're gonna land really high, so it probably won't be of much help. You also need to aim to the left because there's a random building right there. So try something like that. And like, it's not great because the pillar kind of gets in the way a lot of the time, but you know, you never know when that split second of them being blind is enough for your teammate to get a kill. So give that a shot. Moving on to Vertigo, obviously you can just find ways to molly site, and it's a little underrated how impactful this is because of how small the A bomb site is. So definitely want to make sure you're using your mollies to molly the bomb site on both sites really. So something like this, you know, maybe just chucking something like that off the cardboard right there. All this is going to be usually good enough to stall for your teammate that might still be on site. Now, when it comes to B, you can throw a lot of flashes into B to support your teammate, depending on where they are. So even chucking something like that might be okay if they're playing like default or headshot or whatever. Even if they're playing quad, this is not the worst thing in the world. And of course, the T's are going to probably be full blind from that. And of course, coming from spawn, if you just throw stuff to the right, behind this back rafter right here, of course that's going to blind people coming in, but not so much your teammate. Now coming on to nuke, definitely a little hard to support your teammate if they're still on site and you know it's being taken over and you're coming from like heaven or whatever. But something you can try is just bouncing a flash onto the rafter to try to catch people that are like, you know, pushing right here. Maybe you want to make sure it like actually stays in the air, so I don't know. Something like that, or bouncing off the far wall over there. Might be good enough to at least get some kind of blindingness for a teammate that's like backside or something. Coming from mini, again, very difficult, but if this is smoked, you can always just try to molly front site. Or molly this little like gap right here. If you can do it through a smoke, of course, that would be fantastic, but if you can manage something like that, that's a little far. But if you can manage a molly that lands right outside a hut, that's going to be pretty nice for your teammate because it makes it really awkward for the T's to push right here. Now for lower, there's not really much you can do. You're not really in a position more often than not to support a teammate lower. But if your teammate is somehow down there, smoke off control. It's like one of the best things you can do. Maybe smoke single. If you can smoke off control, it gives you so much space to just kind of come out of U-Haul right here and just like look for something and even like scale up to try to help your teammate that's like wherever he could be. Finally, we're on Ancient, and I'll be honest, I don't really know anything much about Ancient, but just generic flashes in the air where the T's are going to be looking will always be good. So something like that, if your teammate is somehow on the bomb site here, or even in one of these like cubbies here, not the worst thing in the world. If you're coming into A, again, kind of difficult, but you can kind of try to lob flashes like that. Oops, not like that. Like this, really deep. Something like this. Granted, it might blind your teammate as well if they're still here, but if you just ask them to don't look, maybe they'll get the idea and just be like, yeah, and try to look one more time for a fight here. And of course, just some kind of molly in this general area is going to be good to make it very awkward for them to come out of this A main area here. So like, you get a path like that, it's kind of strange. So those are some examples of util to help your teammates on the bomb site fight for their life. Obviously, on some maps, it's not going to be quite as effective, but keep in mind the general ideas of blinding the opponents while trying to not blind your teammate, and mollying locations or little areas that the T's need to walk through, so that it's really awkward for them to hit it. A molly like that, perfect example. So make sure you apply these into your games. Very important, very, very, very useful for your teammates to stay alive and for them to perform, and it'll get you those flash assists that you always been wanting. So anyway, like the video if you like the video. Thanks for watching.